Hello and welcome. The purpose of this video is to help navigate a natal chart. So if you're just venturing into astrology and you look at the natal chart and you think, "What in the?" You're right. It's a lot and it can be overwhelming. So the purpose of this video is to give you the very basics of a natal chart so that it doesn't seem so daunting. Now, there are a lot of interworking parts to a natal chart, and um, so, like I said, it can be quite a lot to take in if you've never uh, looked at a natal chart before, and it can be even more daunting to try and read a natal chart if you've never looked at a natal chart before. Now, for to draw up a chart, I use astro.com. And when you draw up a chart on astro.com, it will automatically use tropical. Now, I prefer to use sidereal, but that's a whole nother conversation. So we will just do this example, which I've used Tolkien's chart, will be in the type of chart is going to be in tropical. They don't want to muddy things right off the bat, so we'll start with the top of the chart. Now, when drawing up a chart, it's important to have the exact birth time, birth location. Name is not important unless you want to get into the numerology aspect of that. But so the birth time and the location are definitely important. If you can't, for whatever reason, find the exact birth time, you can use the time of noon, and that will give you a guesstimate, pretty close guesstimate to what the natal chart might look like. And there are methods for pinpointing an exact birth time. I'm not familiar with them, but I know that there are methods, and you could probably look them up and try to figure out how you would do that. But again, top of the birth chart is the person's information of the chart that you are drawing up. So if you go below in this red writing here, this is the type of chart. So, like I said in the beginning, when you use astro.com, it will automatically use tropical. That's the type of chart that it will draw up. I prefer sidereal. And then there are lots and lots and lots of other styles to use depending on what your goal is. Again, we won't get into that. This is the basics. So, if you see where the arrow is pointing to the 1, this is the house systems. It's pointing to the 1. There are 12 houses in a natal chart. Each house contains 30 degrees, and each house has a ruler and a planet. So it has a planet that rules it, and then it has a zodiac sign that rules it. And again, we won't get into that just because that's a lot to get into, and you just want the basics. You don't want to be inundated or overwhelmed. So the first house, first house is the first house. And then second, third, fourth, fifth, and again, where the arrow is pointing, you'll see the house number. Now, in the first house is where the ascendant lies. And across from the ascendant is the descendant. These are angles, and these are important angles in the chart. The ascendant is primarily what you want to start with if you're new to chart reading. You want to look at your ascendant, your moon sign, and your sun sign. That's a good place to start. The descendant is based on relationships and that sort of thing. So romantic relationships, partnerships, any type of partnership really. So business partnership, friendships, romantic partnerships. And then if you look at the top here where it says MC, this is the top of the chart. And this is where whatever is going on up here will likely be out there for everybody to see. The MC deals with your career. Opposite of the MC is the IC. And the IC is the root, your root system, your family root system. So now this little box that the arrow is currently pointing to, these are the elements and the modalities. So to the far left there, the F stands for fire, the A stands for air, the E stands for earth, and the W stands for water. At the top, these are the modalities. So you have the C that stands for cardinal, the F stands for fixed, and the M stands for mutable. And again, we won't go into what this stuff means right now because that's a lot. But this chart essentially will show you, it'll distribute things where they need to be distributed. So in this case, Tolkien has pretty even out energy. He's got a fair amount of air, a fair amount of earth, a fair amount of water, quite a bit of fixed energy, but also he's got cardinal and mutable energy. So this is a chart that, what if I were to look at it, I would say that he is someone who's grounded and might offer a lot of different perspectives. So a good balance of energies is what I'm trying to say. So this is something you would look at to see like how the energies are kind of interacting and with what element. Because fixed air, this is a person that might be very stubborn and fixed in their ways. Or fixed sign, sorry, not fixed air. And then mutable is somebody who is willing to adapt. They adapt to their surroundings. So the arrow is pointing over to the sun. And if you go down the line, these are the planets that are located in the chart. Next to each planet will be the sign that the planet is in and the degree that the planet is in. below, all the way at the bottom where you see the AC and the MC. So that is the sign and the degree that your ascendant is in, and the sign and the degree that your MC is in, placed in. So over here in this chart, these are the aspects. So at the top of each row will be the planet. And so if you take the sun, we'll start with the sun. You go over, you see the moon is there. And there's an aspect between the sun and the moon. And then if you go down below the moon, there's Mercury. There's an aspect between the moon and Mercury. Now, each aspect is a certain amount of degrees and they mean different things, so we won't get into that right now. But this shows the aspects between the planets and the luminaries. So the arrow is pointing to these lines. So you'll see all these lines within the chart. And these are the aspects. So depending, like I said, there are 30 degrees in house, each aspect. So there's sextiles, there's trines, which you can see there's a triangle in Tolkien's chart. In air, he has a grand air trine. So that's just one aspect. There are trines, there are sextiles, there are semisextiles, there are squares. And again, we won't get into that right now, but all these lines in the middle of the chart are the aspects. And you'll learn eventually that so many degrees will tell you what aspect it is. Now, in the very middle of the chart, this is Earth. So Earth is smack dab in the middle. And really, that is the very basics of a chart. So, like I said, if you are just learning how to read a chart, I recommend starting with your sun sign, your moon sign, and your rising sign. So I would look to your rising sign. Like, for instance, in Tolkien's chart, his rising is in the sign of Virgo. And I would learn about Virgo energy, because this will tell a lot about how the person presents himself externally. The moon is about our emotions, how we deal with things on an emotional level. So I would look, his moon is actually opposite his ascendant. Which, again, we won't get into what that means because I don't want to overwhelm anybody. But his moon sits in the 6th house in the sign of Pisces at 0 degrees, which is a critical degree. So, and then his sun sits in the sign of Capricorn in his 5th house. So these are the things I would start with. So look at the sun, the moon, and the rising, what sign it is, and what house it's in, and learn about those energies. And that'll give you a big understanding about who you are, or the person's chart that you're studying, who they are. And then, of course, you'd want to look at the aspects to those placements, which again. I'm going to sound like a broken record, but it's a lot of information. But these are just the basics of a natal chart. If you break it down into the very, very basics of it. Degrees matter, aspects matter, transits matter, and I can go on and on and on and on. But I do plan on making more videos in the future, and I hope this was helpful in some way. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye.